Welcome back to another Sunday prep day. If you're new here, every Sunday I prep for the week, so that means cutting all my vegetables and doing a few other things that take a bit of time. So I'm soaking some beans for tomorrow for a vegan chili. I'm also going to make some tomato soup, but first I'm going to cut all my vegetables and I'm going to make some tzatziki. So, let's just get started by cutting up some vegetables, and then we'll also go over the menu. So, for lunch today, I'm going to have some whole wheat sandwiches with some roasted pork and some lettuce, some cucumber. And if you are new here, I'm diabetic. I had to cut carbs, so I don't usually have carbs for lunch, except on the weekend when I have my cheat days. And then dinners are regular dinners. So, and then for dinner, I have some pita and some shawarma. And that's what I'm going to have the tzatziki with, some lettuce, peppers, onions, all that good stuff. So let's get this in a container. So that was Sunday. Then for Monday, for lunch, I'm going to have some tomato soup. So I'm going to make that today, but I'll eat that tomorrow. I'll just have to heat that through. And then for dinner, that vegan chili that I mentioned. Then for Tuesday, for lunch, I'm going to have some green beans with some chicken. And then for dinner, I'm going to have some chorizo quesadillas. And then for Wednesday, for lunch, I'm going to have some cauliflower mash with some chicken. I think I still have some bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. Those will be lovely. Or some chicken drumsticks or something. We'll just see what I have in the freezer. And then for dinner, I'm going to do some pasta with some bacon lardons and just lots of veggies and some chicken stock, that sort of thing. So then we're on Thursday for lunch, some broccoli with some chicken. Maybe I'll do a stuffed chicken breast or some chicken tenders. We'll just see. And then for dinner on Thursday, I'm going to do a quinoa bowl with some chicken. It's going to be like a fajita, chicken fajita kind of bowl. So, lots of peppers, onions, garlic, marinated chicken. Then for Friday, some cauliflower with some salmon for lunch. And then for dinner, I'm going to do some fish tacos. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm just going to use some breaded fish chunks that are already breaded, so I'm not going to bread them myself. So those are all sliced onions, and then one onion I need to dice. I'm just going to do a rough dice. This is for the pasta. There we go. So yeah, these onions are for so many dishes, for the vegan chili, for the shawarma, for the quesadillas, for the pasta, for the quinoa bowl. So maybe for the fish tacos as well, I might do a salsa. We'll just see. So I'll just use those in just about everything. Then here I have some spring onions that I'll just use for garnish mostly. So I'll just slice them nice and thin at an angle. And I'll just do 2. That's the thing with the spring onions. I buy them because I need them for something, and then I don't use them all, and then they tend to go bad. So I always try to find uses for them, and that mostly ends up being a garnish. So those done. Then I have a couple of cloves of garlic. I'm gonna grate some of them for my tzatziki. So I'll just do that directly in a container. I'll do 2 or 3 cloves. All right. And the rest of these cloves, I'll just give a quick chop. I don't need them too fine, but yeah, these will go in my pasta, in my quesadillas, in my shawarma, in my quinoa bowl. And I'll just give all these a quick chop. If you hear noise in the background, by the way, I have the washing machine going, and my mop is in there, like the head of the mop. So there's some plastic, so you hear some banging. That's just what's making that noise. I don't know how well the microphone picks that up. All right, that's garlic. Then, since we were grating, let's do cucumbers next. So 1 cucumber is gonna go in my tzatziki. I'm using a Persian cucumber. If you have like an English cucumber or something with a lot of seeds in the middle, you wanna take that out. But in this case, these are like dry-ish, so I'm not gonna bother. I'm just gonna grate that straight in. There's a cucumber, and then the other cucumber is gonna go on my sandwiches, so I'll just slice that up. Okay, next up, for my soup, let's do some, this is celery. I was like, what's the word again in English? And this is gonna go in my soup. I think I'm gonna blend my soup so it's nice and smooth, so I'm not gonna cut these too fine. That can go in a container. Then next up, I just have a little bit of carrot left over. So I'll take off the ends, cut in half, cut in quarters, and do some thin slices. That can just go in with my celery because I'm using both of them in my soup. Then next up, let's do some peppers. So peppers are gonna go in my pasta, in my shawarma, in my quesadillas, all of that. So I need some in slices and some diced. So first, cut in half, clean them out. Cut 1 in slices. And this half I'll partly cut in slices. About this much. And the rest I'll dice up for my pasta. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the orange and the yellow. I'll mostly cut them in slices, but a little bit diced, just so I have a variety of colors for every application. All right, that's peppers done. Next up, some chilies. And these are basically gonna go in the same things as the peppers, so the pasta, the quesadillas, the chili. I'll probably throw some in my soup as well. So these cayenne, these red ones, I'm just gonna slice up with the seeds in because they're pretty mild and the seeds don't really bother me. And then jalapenos have a lot more seed in them. It's not because they're spicy, I just don't like all that pith in my food, so I'll just cut that out. And I'll just give those a quick dice. Then I have a whole bunch of cherry tomatoes that I'm going to use in my soup. And I'm just going to quickly cut all of these in half just so they cook down a lot easier. By the way, you can absolutely use canned tomatoes for tomato soup, but these were on sale and they're just a bit more flavorful than canned tomatoes. So that's why I'm using fresh. Then next up, we'll do some broccoli, just some florets for one meal. Cut them into bite-sized pieces. I think that's about a portion worth, so I'll save that for another day. And then I also need some cauliflower for 2 meals. So again, just taking some of these florets off. I'm leaving the rest on the stem because it will last a lot longer in the fridge that way. And again, I'll just cut those into bite-sized pieces. And that's about 2 portions worth, so I'll save this for another day. And then we have one last thing to chop, and that's some cilantro for some lime cilantro rice with my vegan chili. So I'll just cut that off. All the leaves. Save the stems for things like curry paste. And I'll just run my knife through until this is nice and fine. Alright, that's all the chopping for today. I have some parsley, but I'm going to leave that whole because, like I said, I'm going to blitz up my soup, and I don't want to blitz that in, so I'll leave that whole, put that in, and once the soup is done, I'll take that out before I blend it. And that was 24 minutes, so let's clean a few things up, and then we'll start making the soup and the tzatziki and stuff. So while I was putting things away, I preheated my Ninja Foodi, so I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil, and I'll add my yellow onion, some garlic, a little bit of chili. I'm using cayenne just because of the color. Some peppers. I'm using red again for the color. And some celery and some carrot. Add a little salt. And I'll just let that soften. And then to make the tzatziki, I'm also going to add a little bit of salt to my grated garlic and cucumber. Add some Greek yogurt. And then the juice of 1 lime. You can use lemon as well. Add some dill. I'm using dried dill, but you can absolutely use fresh. And you can also add a little bit of mint if you like, but I'm not a big fan of mint, so I'm going to leave that out. Just mix that all together. And that's tzatziki done for tonight. In the meantime, the vegetables have softened, so now is the time to add my tomatoes. And I'll let those soften a bit as well. Now that my tomatoes have softened a bit as well, I'm going to throw in my half a bunch of parsley. It's mostly stem, by the way, left over from last time, but that's still plenty of flavor. That's perfect for this kind of application. Put that in. Just a splash of water. I'm not going to add too much because I want it to be a bit thicker. I don't want it to be super runny. And then I'll switch my Ninja Foodi from saute to pressure cook. Put on my pressure lid, valve closed, and we'll do, this is just some soup, so 20 minutes should be fine. So I'm just going to let that do its thing, and I'll check back in with you when that's done to close out the video. Okay, the soup is done. Now I'm just taking out the parsley. And if I didn't explain before why I want to take that out, it's just for the color. I want this vibrant red, so I don't want to add a lot of green into it. And I'm just going to take my stick blender and just blend that down. And that's the soup ready for tomorrow. I just need to heat that through. And yeah, that's all the prep work for today. If you like this kind of content, I do this every single Sunday. And if you'd like to see what I do with all of this, you can check out my Instagram where I post every single meal. Or you can check out the video I post about once a month on here where I show you a whole week of everything I eat in a day, including how I make everything, etc. So, and I just posted one this last Friday. So, but yeah, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.